to be honest, when I bought this book, I bought it because the cover was pretty. Like, just wow, how could you even say anything more than that? Like, most of the books that are here I've spilt coffee on. The lighting is shocking, but we're just gonna go with it. Hello wonderful people, welcome back to my channel. My name is Gemma. If you are new here and you don't know me, I've been undertaking a little experiment called Wellness Through and Through, where I basically go through every trend that I see on the internet regarding health and wellness and try it out and let you all know how it went. This week I'm doing something a little bit different. I'm going to go through all of the books that I've read in my spiritual journey. Not all the books, my favorite books that I've read, and just, yeah, go through why I love them and what they've given me or taught me in that time. Look, I'm just gonna say, use this video as a place to start. I have not read every single book there is out there. I've got so many left that I still want to read. And there are so many fantastic books that you can read that aren't going to be in this list, and that's just because I haven't read them yet, or they're not for me. These books are books that have spoken to me specifically and helped guide me on my journey towards a better self, I guess. I just want to put a little disclaimer here that I don't believe that a spiritual journey ever ends. Like, I think we're constantly on our own particular journeys, and like I said at the head video of this channel, I hate the word journey, but it is what it is. I know that I'm following my spiritual path. Oh my god, it's raining. I'm just hoping that you can hear me and not the rain. But yeah, I don't think spiritual journeys ever end. I think they're constantly happening and evolving, and we're evolving constantly, and that is why they don't end. So I'm by no means fully spiritually evolved. I probably will never be, and that's okay, but I can constantly learn every single day. So without further ado, let's start before the rain drowns me out. The first book that I want to talk about is The Alchemist. This book really started me on my spiritual journey years and years and years ago. I've read this probably 4 times since then, and I literally cannot tell you how much I love this book. I recommend it to everybody that I meet. I love it so much. So basically, when I read this book, I had gone through a breakup. I was probably 8 months out of that breakup, and it was literally the worst experience of my life. And I was really looking for something. I was looking for a sign that it was going to be okay, because I was still really sad about the situation that I was in. And I remember one day I saw somebody, I cannot remember, but so many people had recommended this, and I saw it in a shop, and I was like, I have to buy it. So I bought it, and I read it, I think, in about 2 days, and it literally just changed my entire mindset. Like, there's one thing in the book that is constantly repeated throughout, and it is the phrase, it is written, or it's been written. And I really subscribe to that phrase, because in my mind that just means whatever your life path is going to be, like all the amazing things that are happening to you and that will happen to you have already been written. They've already been set down in stone. You just have to go and find those things. And The Alchemist is such a personification of that idea, and I just love it so much. It is, I think, honestly, for so many people that I've spoken to, it is the starting point of their own spiritual growth. And for me, it definitely was. It was the first book that I read where I was like, wow, the author gets me. Like, Paolo, Coelho, he is so amazing. Like, I've read a few of his other books since then, and his writing is just so captivating and gripping, and I cannot recommend The Alchemist enough. It is literally one of my favorite books. I read it every single time I travel, and every time I read it, I get something different from it. It is a beautiful story, a beautiful message, and yeah, it definitely helped me on my spiritual journey and growth. And it just helps me to believe that there are good things happening regardless of the, you know, I might find myself in a bit of a shitty situation, but with the strength that book gives me, just, it's like, don't worry, everything is going to be fine. It's okay. Second book that I have read on my spiritual path is We Should All Be Feminists by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. This was a really short read because it is a condensation of her TED Talk. She's an amazing author. There are so many other books that she has written that everybody should go and read. She's a great author, obviously, such an intelligent person, and this book really just embodied everything that I already believed. She didn't look, there was nothing new in this for me, but I just really loved it. She articulates herself in a way that I have not been able to yet, and I only can aspire to, and I just really love this. I think that it's a quick read. I've highlighted some of my favorite quotes in it. Gender as it functions today is a grave injustice. I am angry. We should all be angry. Anger has a long history of bringing about positive change, but I am also hopeful because I believe deeply in the ability of human beings to remake themselves for the better. That in itself just is so like just wow. How could you even say anything more than that? Like, that the way that we are right now, of course you should be angry. We should all be angry. But there is hope because, like, literally what she says, we always have the ability to manifest, to make things better, to make change, and to, you know, be the cause of change. So, fucking fantastic, mate. Could not recommend more. There's another quote she says, we must raise our daughters differently. We must also raise our sons differently. This is a book for everybody. After I read this, I gave this to my dad, and he said there are little stories in here that she talks about in her TED Talk as well, that he said it has changed his perspective on what feminism is and what it does and all that sort of stuff, and how society affects us negatively. He's like, there are things in there that I never thought of, and I was like, wow, there you go. Highly recommend. Everybody should read this, whether you think you're a feminist or whether you think you're not a feminist, whether you're on a spiritual path, whether you're not, give it a go. Really, really, really interesting. So the next book that I really loved when I have on my spiritual awakening, I guess, and journey back to myself, is Buy Yourself the Fucking Lillies by Schuster. This book was really interesting to me because I had heard about it on a podcast and saw it in a bookstore for the first time ever within a week. So I was like, it's a sign. I bought it on my birthday because I saw it on my birthday, so I was like, fuck, it's a sign, like, I have to get this book. And it is about, basically it's about Tara talking about her own life and the rituals that she developed throughout her time, like, growing up, to develop her into a better person, or the person that she is now. I really loved this because there were so many things in here that she already did that I already did prior to reading it, and it just really functioned as a, like, verification to me that I was doing the right things, or doing things that worked for other people. Because I think often when we are on a spiritual path, you know, and learning about ourselves, it can be difficult because everybody else around us is having a different experience to us. So reading this really helped me because I was in a place where everyone else around me was like, what are you on about, you woo-woo girl? But Tara was like on the same page. Sometimes this book, there's a few things that are like a little bit cringy on the surface level, but when you really get into it, it is like, yeah, like, who gives a fuck if it's cringy or not? Like, things are only cringe if we make it cringe. And I think this book is a the perfect characterization of that. She takes things and she's just like, I don't give a shit if someone thinks I'm gonna look stupid. I'm gonna buy myself the Lillies. And I think it's really, really good for women. If you're scared to just believe in yourself, this is the book. Get this book. It will help you just, if you need that little push to take a step to do something, this is the one. I love this book so much. I honestly need to read it again. But yeah, highly recommend. This was one of my favorite books of my journey. Another book that I really love that I don't have on hand, it's inside, and I started filming this before I realized I don't have it, is Atomic Habits. Atomic Habits is one of the most life-changing books that I have ever read in my entire life. I love it. I will die on the hill that Atomic Habits is like literally one of the best self-help books ever written of all time. Obsessed. It basically, for me, what it did was it helped me to organize my brain into what I actually wanted to do, what was achievable, and how to get there. So it's basically a book that teaches you about compounding habits rather than starting a habit that's ridiculously hard today and falling off and not being able to do it in 3 weeks' time. It's the 1% habits, and it is literally life altering for me. Like, that's the reason that I started doing Pilates. It's the reason that I would do one thing a day. Like, I literally, when I read that book, I was like, okay, cool. So from now on, when I read it, I wanted to start reading properly again. And it was just basically like, all right, if I read 1 page a day, I've done my job. And I started doing 1 page a day. And then when 1 page became easy, I started doing 2, and so on and so forth. And basically that is one of the lessons that he teaches in the book. And it is so good, especially if you're a disorganized person or you are a procrastinator like me. It is so good at teaching you good habits it's good at teaching you ways to get out of bad habits, is probably more the way that I would put it. It is literally 10 out of 10, life-changing, amazing, love it. Could not recommend Atomic Habits more. So many people I know have read it. It is raved about, and the hype is worth it. Like, the juice is worth the squeeze with Atomic Habits. Read it, get it on an audiobook, whatever, however you consume books. Literally one of the best books I've ever read. I'm going to talk about feminism a bit more because I think it has changed my life in so many ways and connected me to women in so many ways that I just love being a woman, and I love being a girl. I'm a girl's girl through and through. I love it so much. And one of the books that really taught me about how I look at feminism and the world that around me and how it functions was Why I'm No Longer Talking to White People About Race. This is such an interesting book if you're not a black person, essentially. This is such an interesting book. You need to read it. This is for the white people and whoever needs a little bit of a lesson on the world around you and privilege. Unreal. Literally so many things in this book. I was like, wow, this really makes sense. It really put, not that I needed racism, I guess, to be put into perspective, but like I know that I've got privilege purely for the way that I look. This book articulates it in a way that I will never be able to do, and I'm sure that a lot of people have never heard before. It talks about so many things that are so important, and it is fascinating. But the main chapter, to get to the point, the chapter that I really took the most from was the chapter about intersectional feminism. And it was the first time when I read this, it was the first time that I really could see the line between white feminism and intersectionality in feminism. And it made me think about a lot of the things that I have done in the past that maybe were problematic, or ways that I thought about feminism that weren't beneficial to all women. They were beneficial to only women that looked like me, or certain parts of the community of women that we all have and are a part of. Those things were only beneficial to a certain part. So this was really interesting. It definitely opened my eyes, and it inspired me to actively choose to read books by women of colour and black women and Indigenous women. It really inspired me to look into other things, because this obviously is about the UK, and I live in Australia. So this experience is indicative of racism in the UK. what people experience here is going to be completely different, because racism functions differently in different societies, obviously, and it always has an effect on women and on people just generally. And I think when you're being a good person spiritually and inside you, it means that you are being, you know, it makes you feel good. And I think this in itself is a really great book to sort of, for self-reflection, essentially. So if you're looking to grow spiritually, you can't do that without being intersectional and without thinking about racism and how you contribute to it. So this is a really excellent book for self-reflection in that way. The next book that I really could not recommend more, particularly for women, sorry if you're a man watching this, or a person that identifies as a man, this is probably very much focused towards women, but that's my sphere of knowledge, right? But the next book, literally one of the best books I've ever read in my entire life, and it will come as no surprise that this is in this video, but Women Who Run with Wolves. This is honestly one of my all-time favorite books ever. I love this book. You can tell because I spilled coffee on it. I was going to say most of the books that are here I've spilled coffee on. That's irrelevant. This book took me 6 to 8 months to read, because it's not a book that you can just sit down and read end to end in a day. It is literally so intense, and I learnt so much from this, particularly about intuition and shame and the way that this book changed my life. This book and The Alchemist, if you're looking to change your life as a woman, they are the only two that you need to read in this. This book changed my life. Clarissa, Pinkola, Estés, unreal writer, wonderful storyteller, great look into, like, it's such a great look into psychology behind fairy tales and what it's teaching us, and all of the things that we really just ignore. This is, I honestly have no words for how fucking amazing this book is. I wish that I could read it again for the first time. I love it so much. I actually want to read this again and again and again and again, just so that I can get every single ounce and morsel of knowledge from this book. It is so it literally, Maya Angelou says everyone who can read should read this book. What more of a glowing recommendation do you need than Maya Angelou? This is literally, like, I can't rave about this book enough. I love it. It's moving. It's so touching. It is so deeply vulnerable for women to read this, in my opinion, because there is so much in here that I was reading and I was like, I do these things that are negatively impacting my psyche. And basically it just goes through ways that we can connect to ourselves again and really embrace womanhood and femininity in a way that isn't catering towards masculinity. And I often see videos on TikTok and online of the divine feminine energy and the divine masculine energy and what that means. And I'm telling you, if you want to have those ideas smashed, read this book, because saying that being in your soft passive place is the divine feminine, I promise you, you're in a trap. Read this book. It is literally the best. To give you a basic rundown, she takes all the traditional fairy tales and then tells those fairy tales and then breaks them down psychologically from a woman's perspective, which we never get. But that's that. 10 out of 10. If you read any of these books, make it this one. This is the best one. The next book that I loved in my spiritual path to myself has been Good Vibes, Good Life. I thought I was going to hate this book. I'm not even going to lie. Vex King, I'm so sorry for doubting you. I thought I was going to hate this book. But it really surprised me. It turned out to be one of the best books I've ever read. I love this book. It was such an easy read as well. It wasn't complicated. It's basically a self-help book that doesn't tell you what to do. Like, it is so good. It basically is a book that makes you partake in self-reflection. And I think that in itself is such a wonderful gift, because I think we're losing the ability to self-reflect, and this enabling that is a 10 out of 10 for me. I really loved this book. I read it over summer, and it was so mind-altering. It really changed my perspective on a lot of things. It definitely made me more positive. I don't necessarily believe in the toxic positivity version of positivity, because that's obviously, it's not healthy. However, this has made me more positive in that when I am going through something negative, I take the lessons that he's given us in here and really try to take them on board and turn around the situation that I'm in, which is like the silver lining thing, right? So yeah, it's really interesting. I really enjoyed this book, and there's literally sand in it because I've read it at the beach and all over the place, and it is just, I just love it. I hate that I keep saying so, because there are a plethora of better words than so, but it is just such a good book. I recommended this even to my dad, who hates self-help books, and he said it was really good. It's like I said, it's a self-help book that doesn't tell you what to do, and it's not preachy. It's just, he's like, this is what worked for me, and this is how you can do it as well. When I was reading this, I was posting it all over my Instagram story. So if you follow me on Instagram, you'll have seen a page from this book at least once. It is honestly like, he gives you ways to deal with negativity, negative self-talk, and getting through all those things without becoming a wanker. So 10 out of 10, love this book so much. Now, that brings me to the last book of this this episode of Wellness Through and Through. And it's the book that I'm currently reading, and it is This One Wild and Precious Life. I have spoken about this before in my previous video of things that I've learned in 29 years. It is by Sarah Wilson, another journalist. Really smart woman. Love her. She's great. This is such an interesting book. I'm almost finished. I'm really close to the end. It really has changed my perspective on a lot of things. This book tackles how we can work on making the world a better place without getting depressed about the effects of climate change and what it's doing and how quickly it's happening, which I personally really need, because sometimes life is very overwhelming, and this book really just helps to put things into perspective, and it's taught me so many different things. She talks about hikes in here, so if you're a hiker, there's I think maybe 8 or 12 hikes that she talks about in this book. There's a few places that I definitely have put on my bucket list for when I go to Europe in a few weeks, and it just is really such a beautiful book about bringing, it has brought me back to my love for nature and all of the things that we can do to sort of combat this situation that we're in. Honestly, this isn't a book review. This is amazing. I really recommend it to anybody that loves nature but gets overwhelmed by when you hear about all of the horrible things that are happening. This is a really great way to this book is so great at breaking down all of the problems that we have and how we can deal with it on an individual basis day to day. I also love, she made me feel really good about using my Keep Cup, because she said that every time we buy a Keep Cup, you need to use it 20 times for it to outweigh its, the effect that it has on the environment from being made. And it has really inspired me to bring my Keep Cup to work every week, and just do little things to stop, your consumption. I am a huge I love shopping. I'm not gonna lie. She says not to do that in this, but sorry Sarah if you're watching. I love shopping. I'm not gonna sit here and fib, but it definitely has made me think about the way that I consume things and the way that I buy things in life, which is, I think, really important. We should all have the ability to be self-aware, and there are so many things in this that I cannot wait to take into my world around me. I love it. It's such an interesting book. I feel like I've just gone through every single book and been like, this is so interesting, you should read it. But it's true. All of them are really, really great. They connect you back to your humanity and to the world around us and how important we are all to each other. And yeah, I really just love them all. I also, like, to be honest, when I bought this book, I bought it because the cover was pretty. I'm not too big to admit that. I bought it because the cover was really nice and it just sounded good. But it has really changed my perspective on climate change and the things that I believe in, and also the trajectory of my career. So Sarah Wilson is a journalist. She used to work at the company that I work for now, and you know, there are a few things in here where she's talked about her life and stuff, and I'll definitely be buying her other books. It just really has opened my eyes about, you know, a plethora of different things. Great book. If you really love nature, give this book a go. She talks about a few hikes. Like I said, she talks about hikes in here that I've never even heard of. I definitely want to be going to Tasmania to do the hike that she talks about in here. I'm going to Japan next year. She talks about it in here as well. There are so many things that in this book that she talks about that is so moving. Like, it was just so touching because you can feel her emotion when she writes about herself, and that is I think that's a skill that journalists have that a lot of other storytellers don't have. You can really just feel the depth of emotion in it. So great book. Please, yeah, read it. 10 out of 10. Love it. That brings me to the end of this video. Thank you all for being here up until now. If you have read any of these books before, let me know what you think of them in the comments. If you've got any other recommendations for what I should read, please also put them in the comments. I love book recommendations. I have a sickness where if I go into a bookstore, I have to buy a book. So give me ones to buy, basically. If you read any of these books because of this video, please let me know what you think. Message me on any of the social apps that I've got, and yeah, I'll be traveling very soon, so I'm gonna start doing videos for that. Subscribe to the channel if you're interested in that, and I will see you all next week. Yeah, happy reading, happy spiritual growth. If you guys like these kinds of videos, please let me know, because I'm happy to go into myself and my own personal experiences doing different things and exploring with different methods of spirituality. I'm obviously a believer in crystals. I wear a carnelian ring every day. I love tarot, like tarot cards, not tarot. Reading is a huge outlet for me. I love journaling. Look, if it's spiritual, I've probably tried it. So if you guys want to know more about my own experiences, I'm happy to share them. But yeah, I will see you all in the near future. If you want to see what I'm doing day to day, follow me on my other socials. They will be in the description box below, and I will see you all next week. Thank you for being here, and thank you for watching. Bye.